everybody. Welcome to episode number 2 of Stories of Strength. Today, I'm very excited to bring my friend Mark Van Osdel in. I'm going to let him share his story, and I just think that this story, that as much as I know of it, it's a story that's not necessarily unique to everybody, right? Like other people have been through your path.
Right.
But what is unique is that not everybody who's traveled down your path has done what you do now and has made success out of their life. Do you agree?
I agree.
So first and foremost, one of the things that I always want to do is I always want to make sure that I show gratitude to my guests. Mark, I'm so thankful that you agreed to be here today.
Thank you for having me.
It's not always easy for us to be vulnerable and open up and share our stories, but when we are able to do that, it's something that could move other people, and that's really what this is all about. So I appreciate you being my second guest.
Thank you.
He's also very patient, very patient. We were trying to get everything set up, as you may well know, as you're going to record, and Mark's awesome. So thank you very much for making time. I know you're a very busy person. So Mark, the whole point of Stories of Strength.
Love the name.
Thank you.
Love that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And the whole thing that we want to know about today is, tell me a little bit about your story of adversity.
Well, it's a long one. Like I said, it goes back from, I guess, me growing up in the hood. You know, a lot of people don't know that. Maybe they'll see my tattoos and kind of wonders what I've, they'll kind of glance, and people that know me know my story. But yeah, I grew up in West Phoenix, gang banging in the late 80s, mid 90s. I've been to juvenile, Adobe Mountain, spent years in adult prison and juvenile, which a lot of people don't know. They didn't know until they saw the post that I put out there. And they were like, "You've been to prison?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, I've been gone 5 years,
That's actually what made me want to invite
right.
you. I think that it's incredibly brave that you're open to sharing that with people. I think that the stigma of having had a felony or having spent time in prison still exists, unfortunately.
Yes. Oh, definitely.
There's a lot of discrimination around it, and there's a lot of people that have paid their debt to society and yet are still being very discriminated against.
Still don't get a fair,
No fair shake, right? You did your time, you served your debt for the mistake you made, and then what?
It's been, that post, that was what triggered it, as you know. That was something that happened 20-something years ago. And they're like, "We don't care." Like, really? Like, 100% record is set aside. Like, I've got CCW, can legally carry my vote. Like,
I was going to say, your rights have been restored.
Everything's done, and still like, "Nope, still we don't care." It's like, seriously? Like, that's just how it works, unfortunately. And there's so many people that I know that have dealt with that. And some just give up.
That's very true. I mean, recidivism is, I don't know, like 97%. It's very, very high.
It's just, they don't give up. I tried to get my gun rights back just because I do a lot of outdoor activity.
Yeah.
With friends, my son, just for the simple fact that I didn't want to get pulled over.
And get in trouble.
Yeah, friends have a gun, and, you're going back for 7 years. Like,
no thanks.
No. So I tried 6 times, I believe, to get my rights back, and then here I am again, 6 months later, a year later, here I am again, file. Finally, they're like...
Yeah, but there's something to be said about that. I mean, you didn't give up.
No.
What made you not give up?
I don't quit. I don't quit. It's not in my nature. Like, I'm here. I deserve this. I'm gonna get this. And finally, I think maybe through the time and the effort, the courts finally saw, like, well, it's been 7 years since he first applied and nothing has happened since.
Wow.
Maybe we should go ahead and grant this. And I didn't want us to, this world we live in, I carry every day. It's unfortunate the world we live in. It's crazy, and it's just for self, protection at home or out here, just whatever.
Sure, and there's all different stances on firearms, but the thing about it is that we live in the United States, and up until now, and as far as I know of, that's part of our Bill of Rights, right? Is the ability to bear arms. And it's interesting that people sometimes that get in trouble and do time in prison, it happens when they're very young. Like, how old were you when you did the time in prison?
I think I hit Florence. I went to the
maximum.
Yeah, if you know Florence, the name, it's I think I had just turned 19. They gave me 7 years, and they ran it concurrent. So I did. They gave me 3.5 total, but I had just turned 19.
Right.
I was a young pup.
I was gonna say, what did you know at 19?
To get in trouble. I didn't know any better.
Yeah. What did you learn when you were away? Did you learn how to stay out of trouble, or do you think that?
I think it sounds crazy, but I think that saved me just by going there, because I would hang out with the older crowd, the OGs in there, and just grew with their mindset.
Okay.
Because I know, I've always liked to hang out with the older crowd, just to pick their brains and different things. But I think that saved me from getting into more trouble, because where I grew up in West Phoenix, it was bad back then. There was killings, there was, you name it. I've lived it, I've been through it.
Sure.
I've seen it.
Like, I grew up in Detroit in the 80s and 90s. I understand.
Right, yeah. So I think in a way it helped me just to kind of mature. Not to say I was perfect when I got out, because I wasn't. I was still young.
Yeah.
But it was different times back then, as you know.
What was it like when you came home? Was it easy to go back to the old neighborhood, or did you have to live in a new neighborhood?
I had to go live in Mesa with family. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, because it was still, everything in my area was still active. Mm-hmm. They were like, you're not going back there.
Yeah.
So I went somewhere else, and still, I wasn't perfect. I still, I was a little older, but still young. So I got out 22, 23. Like I said, I've been out 24 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'd say you made it.
Yeah, so I appreciate that. That post, when I put it up, like, what happened. And then that Friday when I posted that was my 24-year anniversary.
Wow.
And it's crazy. So when I posted that, I got so many DMs, text messages, people just reaching out to me. Positive. Like, it was, I didn't expect that. I just put it out there because that's what I was feeling. Yeah. And I was just kind of like, man, what happened?
Some of those people have a family member, or themselves have been through it, or have family members currently.
It's crazy you say that. So a young lady on my Facebook, she sent me a DM. Thank you for sharing your story. And I had never talked to her.
Wow.
And she said, my son is in prison, and I'm going to share this with him because he is wondering what he's going to do when he gets out.
That's a big wonder. It's a huge wonder, because when you're incarcerated, although, and this is just what I know from different stories I've heard, and I grew up in an area where, unfortunately, many of my friends are either still serving time, some of them didn't make it, and some of them are living on the streets today. It's not like you're really truly set up to be successful in the world. Even if you really truly want to, you take advantage of the educational opportunities that you can have while being incarcerated. I don't feel that, through the conversations I've had with other people, like, that they were not prepared when they got out. No. And then you try and you go get a job, and like you said, maybe they don't want to hire somebody who has a felony.
Yep.
You can't really go to your old neighborhood where you do have your connections and your support network, because that's dangerous.
Right.
Where do you go from there?
Right.
So when you got home, you went to Mesa. What happened after that?
Started living, trying to adapt and get back to reality.
Okay.
And then
tell me a little more about that. Like, what did that look like for you? What was getting back to reality like for you?
I used to work out a lot. That was and it still is my escape.
Okay.
That is something. I'd walk to the YMCA and just work out. I was small, but I was big.
buff.
Yeah, like I was 170 and I was benching like 350.
Yeah, I'm not messing with Mark.
Yeah, I like to work out, but back then I was 19, 20. I mean, it was easy to get big, but that's been my escape.
That's a good escape.
Yeah, it still is. For me, it helps me mentally. Not physically is good, but it's more mental for me.
A lot of people that I know that feel the same way you do. It helps them to avoid like depression, anxiety, aggression. It's just a great outlet. So that's awesome that you were able to continue that.
It's of course in real estate, everybody's eating everything, and it's always freaking food, right? Like.
Drinking,
man, eating, it's like I'm trying to be on a diet, and let's go eat my treat. Oh man, you know what?
I did that too.
Yeah,
I'm taking you for food after this.
It's
right?
my cheat day.
It's the cheat day.
I planned that one out.
Fair enough.
So, but you know what? I just adjusted, and like I said, I fortunately used to drink a lot more back then. But it was, all my friends hang out, and so we did.
Yeah.
That's what I knew.
Yeah.
And little by little, I just started to, through years, I mean, it did take a while, and the change really happened for me is years later, but my boy was out there. He saved me. Mm-hmm. He doesn't know it, but he did. So that's not to take away from my daughters. I was just a boy back then.
Yeah.
But I needed to become a man. And also the other thing that changed me was I joined a network marketing group, and I learned personal development, personal growth.
Oh, right on.
Started to read, started to watch motivational videos. And I would wonder, I would go to these events, and I'm like, how come my suit doesn't fit like his? I didn't know any better. I was a young kid.
Yeah.
And they were all fitted.
Well, it's because they got it tailored.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have known that at that time.
At the time, I was like, they don't look like that. I got
myself a nice suit.
Yeah.
Why does it not look like that?
And I started to talk to them and pick their brain and their mindset. And okay, well, when I started getting tailored and fitted, I'm like, man, I feel good. People started to notice when I dressed different, then I acted different, I felt different.
Yeah. Do you feel like you were still acting like yourself, but just like a more polished version of you?
Well, in the back of my mind, I always had something pushing me, and I never knew what it was. Something that's like, no, like if I go to a certain bar or something, man, what am I doing here? I have no business here. Get out of here. And like get out of here. Like, you gotta go. Like, go home. So I never understood what it was.
Some people call them guardian angels.
Yeah, and it's like, go, get out of here. And it was always like in the back of my mind is picking at me. And once my path started to change a little bit, that went away. And it was like, okay, well, I need to go this route. And like I said, once I learned personal growth, personal development, different things, it's a different mindset.
What's the two biggest takeaways that you could say you remember in that transformative time in personal development that you still use today?
A book that I read, Compound Effect.
The Compound Effect. Okay.
And Hardy. You do this, you get this positive. You do this negative, you're going to get that negative. And if you keep going negative and negative, guess what's going to happen? You keep going positive, guess what's going to happen? So that was like, well, I guess that's true.
It's eye-opening.
Right. So I'm like, all right. That and what saves me every day is motivational videos.
Really?
I wake up in the morning and I'll read, like I'm reading The Power of One More from Ed Milet right now.
Oh, nice.
And I'll have my screens on. Like, I'll read and then I'll play motivational videos. Whatever it is, Ed Milet or just whoever I'm listening to that day, just to reinforce the positive mindset.
Part of your morning routine. Yeah. That's pretty awesome.
It helps.
Because, like, I think we forget about how important it is to have the positive voice in our head, right? Like, the world can kick your butt. Right? So why do we also kick our own butts? It happens all the time. I'm sure even in your practice of like self-love and self-motivation, at times you still hear that voice. You have probably learned the skill set to quiet the negative voice and to not lend it weight. But it exists. and it's a continual practice, right? Like, it sounds like you have made that motivational part of your day beginning.
I have to.
I love it.
I have to.
So I love the fact that you decided when you came home that you were going to get on a different path. Was there a time when you were incarcerated that you had an aha moment?
In there,
or would you say most of the aha moments occurred once you were outside?
I'd say most outside, but the thing that I remember most is visitation and my girls leaving. Just tore me apart. I hated it. You know, I was young, but and they were small.
I'm sure that was tough.
It killed me, you know, to see them leave, and you know, it hurt. You know, and there's things that I went through that my daughter still don't know that from back then. You know, like people think, oh, I went to prison. I didn't go to prison for gang banging. It was direct. It was a connection with gang banging. They actually
like special circumstances.
Yeah, like, you know, and I don't even know if my youngest daughter knows. I still talk to her if she listens to this, but I'm gonna tell her, like, something happened back in the day when it was gang bang drive-bys. Like, it was just every night was bullets flying where I lived at.
Yeah.
And they came by and shot at my house, and they hit my daughter's mom's car. And I intentionally would park it sideways just because her crib was right there. She was 9 months old.
Yeah.
Guess what got hit that night? That car.
Wow.
So
that car hadn't been there.
And I don't even think she knows
a very different podcast.
I don't think she knows that, and she's just turned 28. And I don't think I've ever told her that.
Oh, man.
But that is, I went on a mission once I found out who did it.
Oh.
So that's how I ended up in prison. It wasn't because I was getting in trouble. It was connected, kind of. But I went after.
But that's what the street justice teaches us, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know. I don't remember friends being like, I'm going to tell my parents and call the police.
No.
It was like, you know, a totally different justice system.
It was different back then.
And it was different back then. It's also different it's not that different today. There are still gangs. There are still people that are living that lifestyle. Yeah. And homes getting shot up. It happens here in Phoenix.
Still.
I went back to visit Detroit a couple weeks ago, and it's like when I go away from the old neighborhood and I go back, I'm like, man, like sometimes it causes a little PTSD for me because I can't believe of the things that I saw at such a young age.
Right.
And what happened to people who I know as kids. Like, we grew up together. I know the innocent side to them, the real human, before all the hard set in. But when you look around at the environment and you see what the resources are for these kids and that we had, I'm sure this is similar for you. Sometimes the familial structures, there's a whole lot of things that play into when you end up going through a really hard adversity like that. That's a lot, and it's a really hard lesson to learn at an early age. So I love what you've told me about your aha moments. So now I want you to tell me a little bit about your success. What's happened through your personal development? What are you doing today?
Today I'm going to some pizza pretty soon.
What's your job today?
Today, well, just love being a loan officer, honestly.
So you help other people make what happen?
Buy their houses. You know, they get into their dream homes, and it's a blessing to be able to do that. I love making the clear to close phone call. I did one last year for my daughter. I broke down. I got to call her, you're clear to, and I'm choking up now. Like, it got me. Her first house, you know, so my youngest, and it was a big deal.
Heck yeah.
So I love what I do, and I've got I'm gonna rewind a little bit and let you know how I got into the industry.
Oh yeah, that's what I want to know. But I want you to tell me how you got into the industry, because that's really important about the aha moment.
Mm-hmm. So,
and then what happened?
So, like I said, you know, my son, he's sitting out here, right? me and his mom, unfortunately, we had a nasty separation. And I'm not blaming her. It's just, it was us, whatever. It was bad.
It happens, right?
It was real bad, right? So at the time, it was, the custody, child support, all the whatever comes up.
That's a whole other story of adversity.
It was just bad. So anyway, I was going through all that, and mind you, I'm the petitioner in this case. I served her when we lived together. That didn't go over well that night. Like, you're not taking my son from me. Like, I was never the respondent. Like, I was coming to get rights for my son. Yeah, that was a rough night.
Yeah, I'm sure that wasn't very funny.
Anyway, we separated. I wanted to make sure that I had my boy in my life. Like I said, I'm still very close to my girls, but they're older. He was younger, so I was fighting for rights for him. And it just came down to 50-50 custody battle, and you're going to see him once a month. I'm like, no, I'm not. It was more of a power trip. Like I said, I'm not knocking her, but that's just what it was back then. That was our relationship. I said, no, that's not going to happen. Well, you work for the city of Phoenix. I was there 15 years for the city of Phoenix.
Wow.
You can't take him starting school is what triggered all this.
Oh, you don't have the schedule that would allow you to care for him properly.
I got you. Like, you can't pick him up. You can't. I said, I'll resign. She said, no, you won't. So time went on. I told my foreman at the time, I said, look, I'm going to court. He starts in 6 months. He starts school. If I haven't figured this out, I'm going to quit. They said, you're what? I said, I'm going to quit. 15 years. I don't care. So
unless you make my schedule so that I can be a parent.
And they tried, but I was going to burn my vacation time within like a month. Like, I was done. And by all means, I get it. That's their job. They're like, we really can't change. You're not that special. Or we can just change your schedule, right? Like,
right. They don't. Maybe they don't have a flex work schedule.
Yeah, and I get it. But the time came. Friday, and I walked in. I said, "You got my papers?" They're like, "You're serious?" I resigned. In 15 years, I walked away, and I had no job. So, because I was not going to see my son only once a month, so I walked away. So,
that's a big decision to do because that also puts you. That was a risky one.
Oh yeah.
Because that puts you in a position where you may not be the favorable parent then, because you don't have the job. But you were like, I'm going to figure it out.
And I did. I said, I don't quit. So I walked away after 15 years. No job. So a couple months down the line, a good friend of mine who's now passed, my buddy Rick, he has a house in Flagstaff. His family does. And we're driving up there to go for the weekend.
Yeah.
And we're just talking. And I was like, man, I don't know what I'm going to do. He said, well, I'm trying to be a loan officer, because he was a branch manager. Actually, the one that brought me into the industry.
Wow.
And I was like, I'm a felon. I can't do that. He goes, well, when we get back home, come to my office. He had a big office at Westgate at the time. So we go, and we're sitting there above Yard House, whatever, and he calls AZDFI and puts me on speaker. Yeah. The guy's like, told him, he's like, what'd you do? I told him, how long ago was it? This many? He goes, you're fine. I said, what? He goes, you're good. Because it wasn't financial, and it's been over 7 years. Go get your license. What?
That's awesome.
So he was like, told you. And I was like, I didn't know how to feel. I was like, are you serious? Like, I can do this? Because he was making great money at it.
Okay, we have to pause for a second. What you just said, is such an important thing. How many people out there have a felony and think they can't do something?
Right. But me, I was...
Like, if nobody had taught you that, or said to you, Mark, let's just check.
Yeah. And he picked up the phone and called AZDFI. I didn't know what AZDFI was back then.
That's
and the guy
awesome.
goes, you're fine. I said, are you freaking kidding me? Mind you, I had no job. So I went for, I don't remember how many months this was after I left the city, but I know I was picking up my son from school, taking him to school.
You went to a straight commission job.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So there was no giving up there, right?
Nothing.
Like, you had to make it work. And
yeah.
You had to work hard.
Well, this was a 2-year gap from the time I left the city till I got my license. So I went 2 years with no job, paying mortgage, trying to feed my son, paying bills, fighting with my ex, paying court battles.
All of it.
I was on the grind. So 2 years and no job.
I'm like, no wonder you had to watch motivational videos every morning.
I would get up in the morning and watch motivational videos, but before I would take him to school, 4 o'clock in the morning, I would study for my test. Mind you, I failed a couple times because I was trying to memorize and I wasn't learning. So here I was, dead broke. Yeah. And I've shared this with just a circle of friends that There was one night where my boy was sleeping next to me and I was just staring at my ceiling fan. I had $40 to my name. And like, what am I going to do? I just laid there watching the fan just turn and turn and turn, and he's sleeping. I'm like, how am I going to feed this kid? My ex texted me fighting.
Eggs and weenies.
Oh yeah, he got to learn. He loves Little Caesars pizza. He didn't know at the time that's all I could afford, right? Yeah. I want a pizza. Yeah, Dad. Okay, good. You know, 2 pizzas, $10. That's a couple of days worth of food, but that was what I was going through. So we went through that, and 2 years. I mean, I was flipping cars. I was doing whatever I needed to do.
Make the income.
And people were calling me, hey, can you sell my car? Yep, I'll flip it. A couple $100. You'll pay me. Whatever I needed to do, I did it.
Wow.
2 years is a long time with no income. So
I don't think I could make it.
Yeah, so I went through that, and I'll never forget. I finally passed my test. Right, like I started studying, listening to a YouTube video. So this instructor paid for a course, and I was listening to her versus trying to memorize a book. Killed that test. I'm like,
because it became more practical, right?
Yeah,
like
so,
it was like real stuff, not just like
to memorize, falling asleep. I gotta read, and then I started watching her stuff and taking the test online. I'm like, killed it. It's like, okay. And I'll never forget my son. He was 5, 6 at the time, picking him up at school. He's small, walking, holding his hand. I passed, I passed, son. Oh, that's good, Dad. He don't know what I'm talking about. But I still tell him to this day, I'm like, you're the reason I'm a loan officer. He may understand it now, but that's how I got into the industry, because I needed something with the flexibility to go pick up my son and drop him off. And it was rough. So at that time, too, said I'm an only child, single. My mom died unexpectedly. So talk about a dagger in the heart where you're trying to go. I resigned, and like she passed like within days, and it's like,
how much more can you put on my plate?
I was like broke. Like I'm a strong guy, and I was like just like broke. I'm like, what else, man? Like I can't deal with this.
Yeah.
And I knew it. I was hunting up north, and I came home to get my son to take him back, and she didn't answer that Friday morning, and I knew it in my heart. I knew it. She texted me in the morning, and she didn't text me. I was like, oh man, I knew it. And what's crazy is the Thursday before, she called me and she was crying. Love you, son. I love you, man. Like freaking crying. And I was like, what's wrong, Mom? I love you, son. And like she sensed it. And the next day, I talk about a drive. I drove home from Prescott, Senator Highway, hour and a half away, in my big lifted truck, doing 100 miles an hour. Because she still didn't answer me. And in my heart, I knew it. And yeah, you talk about a long drive home. It was horrible. And sure enough, I got there, and the manager at the place was crying. I'm like, Peoria PD was there, and so I had to call my daughters. And,
that was a tremendous loss for you.
Yeah, like I said, I'm an only child. She's my best friend. So resigning, losing my mom, no income, fighting with my ex, going bankrupt. I mean, all stacked.
You're like, which card goes my direction here, right? Because they were all kind of stacked against you.
All one after another. And I'm like, and I'll never forget, like, before she passed, she said, just do right by God and do right by your family, and everything will work out. So I remember breaking down to her, I'm like, Mom, what did I do to deserve all this?
That's great advice.
And
it is very true.
Yeah, and I've tried to live by that. And, I was wanting to see my son. She goes, just wait. He's going to get older, and he's going to be with you more than you know. And you see he's here to stay, right? Summer vacation is with Dad. What I fought for,
you have it.
He's here. Yep.
Wow.
I have it. So that's how I got into the industry of being a loan officer.
That's incredible. You're you've got me a little choked up right now. So
yeah, a lot of people don't know that.
That's super inspirational. So many people give up, and there really, really are talented people out there that they get those cards stacked against them for such a period of time. The ability to bounce back from that in and of itself is incredible. And I hope that you show yourself a lot of love and gratitude to yourself for having done that.
I'll show you my tattoo right here. It's gratitude. I don't know if you ever seen it?
I don't know if I've seen it. Let's see it.
So I had my buddy do this just because of everything that I've been through. Gratitude.
I love it.
Did that about a year ago, maybe.
I love it.
Just as a reminder.
Very appropriate.
Just as
very
a reminder.
Appropriate. The reality is, though, you deserve a big, huge pat on the back too, because sometimes when we're broken, sometimes we don't always have the skill set, like all of that exists, to somehow dig deep and find that strength. Just the act of digging deep, looking for the strength, can sometimes be all you have. You know, but then to like dig deep and like put it in motion, you know, that's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. So, wow, I think that this is just such an amazing story, and I'm so thankful that you're sharing with me. So, I want to know something more about you. I know that you're a father, and you are obviously active in your son's life. You have
daughters as well.
Your daughters as well.
Granddaughters too, 3 of them.
You have grandkids? We didn't talk about that.
My daughters are older. They're good. One thing I do love is...
I'm like, are you the cool grandpa?
Yeah. What's cool though is I love is my daughters are 28 and they just turned 28 and 30.
Yeah.
Still call me daddy.
Oh.
I freaking love that, you know.
Of course.
So that's still... I'm very close with them.
That's awesome. I still call my dad daddy. And I'm...
Goes a long way.
I mean, I'm 29 again.
Right.
Well, when your dad plays a role in your life, which, look, plenty of people become successful and they have in a single parent household, right? Look at your situation. You had your mom. I haven't heard you say much about dad. So
Dad passed 2003.
Oh yeah.
I was closer to my mom.
So he wasn't really even able to be part of your adult life. Your mom was, though, and she clearly made an impact on it.
Oh yeah.
But dads and moms both play an important role, right?
Sure.
And it's interesting when I hear that somebody makes decisions. Like when you said to me, my son saved me. I mean, you allowed him to. Like plenty of people have children and think that it will save them.
Right.
But they don't allow the miracle of becoming a parent to save them.
Me. Like I said, I was there for my daughters, but I was still growing.
Oh.
Like I said, I was still a boy.
Yeah.
And then at that time, I was like, I need to, like I said, that little voice in the back of my head was there. And like I was going through the motivational stuff, the network marketing company, meeting millionaires, and just like, I need to change. And I put everything into being a better man, a better dad for him. And, you know, and it's paid off. You know, it's paid off. He's a great kid.
Doesn't say he's super polite.
He's very nice. Like he's just an all-around great kid.
Yeah.
He'll hold the door for you. I don't even have to tell him. He knows what to do.
He just learned that all by himself? No, I think he learned it from somebody.
I need to send an example.
He learned it from somebody, right?
The thing is, like a lot of people, I appreciate that, is your kids watch you. You know,
more than you even know.
Yes, they watch you because he'll ask me questions and different things, and he sees me working, and you know, it's a big deal. I love what I do.
Yeah.
You know, and he just asks me questions about what about this, what about that. So he's watching. So I try and I'm not perfect, but I try and set good examples. Because now, like I said, I like to go to the gym. He's been doing boxing for about 4 months.
Oh, cool.
So now we're both on like a little health kick. So
is he trying to box with you yet?
Yeah,
are you sparring?
He said he'll show me how to box. I said, okay, well, I'll show you how to street fight. You can fight.
He's going to teach you to fight, right? Yeah. Oh, I love it.
So, but we're on the health kick. He's like, nah, you don't have muscles, Dad. Come on. Like, but it's cool because
it's good banter.
Yeah, he's on that. You know, I want to lose weight, Dad. I want to get better shape, and I'm there every Tuesday and Thursday, taking him to training, and he comes out just full of sweat, but he loves it.
How's it doing for his self-esteem?
It's great.
Yeah, that kind of stuff's really important for kiddos. I mean, whatever the activity is, it doesn't have to be boxing, but to allow your child to have that rich experience, they're accomplishing something, you know, and all of that helps to build better foundations for them as they get older to be productive, happy members of society.
Yeah, it's helped.
So I love that you give back to your kids. I'm curious, have you done anything in the motivational space?
No, you know what? I've talked to a few people and they asked me to, but I don't know. My oldest daughter is always like, Daddy, well, tell your story. Like, tell your story.
I agree with her.
You know, and she's always, tell your story. And I'm like, I don't maybe have an ego about it, whatever, but when I tell people, like I said, when I put that post out about it, and she told me, she goes, it's not about you. And I'm like, you're right. You know, she was absolutely right. And when I put that post out, I'm like, wow, I didn't expect people to DM me and tell me that you're a great job. Like, thank you. I really appreciate that, but it's not what I was looking for. It was just more me venting, going,
or just sharing a memory. I mean,
right.
that's...
And I put the prison pictures up in there, like, what the hell? Like, if you see my daughters, they were like 2,
yeah,
right? And people were like, what? You?
I had to do a double take. I'm like, when I saw it, I'm like, I didn't read what you had written at first, and I was like, dang, he looks like he's coming out of vacation. That's what I always call it. Looks like he's coming off vacation. Yeah. And then I read it, I go, dang, he was coming off vacation.
Back in mid-90s when it was real, yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, wow, man, like, you know, I thought to myself, I always thought you were cool. I thought you were nice, you were friendly. I could see you were working hard, but that really put a level of depth to your person that I didn't know existed. And so I'm so thankful you shared that. It's also so great that you shared it, because that's the whole point of this podcast, is to help other people that might be going through that exact same thing know that there is actually a light at the end of the tunnel. So I think I'm going to challenge you to find some group, maybe like there's youth services. I feel like you could make such a difference to maybe some younger men, younger guys.
Yeah, I had a friend that I grew up with. She had actually, me and another friend were talking, but she was a teacher. Like going to talk at one of her schools and just different things.
I think you should do it. Yeah. Your story is really, really good, and I know there's more to the story. And each time that you tell it, you may find new, important things that you want people to know about. But it truly is a great story. And I'm so thankful to know you. And I'm so thankful that you had your aha moment, because you're making a difference in your kids' lives. I really enjoy having you as a part of our real estate community. You're a great partner. I see how you interact with people. You have so much to offer the world. And so pat on the back for making those decisions, because we need you, and you're here, and you're going to help other people through your experiences. So I appreciate you. How can people stay in touch with you?
I'll give you my number, 602-434-6530. And on that note, I'm going to speak about something else real quick, if it's okay.
Absolutely.
I was going to give out my information here. Here's another thing, like maybe my oldest daughter, like I said, I've talked to her, my youngest, I've told her to. Maybe about 5 people out of my circle. I don't have a big circle. I know a lot of people, but I've got a small circle, like they say.
Yeah.
I've battled severe depression majority of my life. And I wanted to put that out there just for people that may be going through hard times, because right now it's rough.
It is rough.
Because I find myself, and I've told this to Mario, when I'm not busy with work and I'm working home on myself, and I'm...
Does the depression voice start talking?
Oh, it starts talking, and I go in the left field real quick. I'm going to do what the day, and like, whoa, relax. And I would say the majority of people that know me, they don't know that. But I wanted to not bring attention to me, but put my number out there. If anybody wants to talk to me about it, they want to DM me, because I've talked to a few people that I didn't know they were, like, I don't know how the conversation came up, but then they just, like, a friend of mine 2 weeks ago, she just like, you? But she was telling me her story. And I let her vent, and I told her me, and she was like almost in tears. Yeah. Like, I was like, call me, text me in the morning. Just because I know in the morning it gets rough. Because so many people are fighting demons that nobody knows about, because nobody wants to.
They're afraid to share it, or they feel ashamed, or they think they're the only one.
That's why I wanted to.
And depression is like, it's an illness.
It's hard.
But you can't see it. You can't see the illness. And most high-functioning people, and you're a high-functioning person, you would never know that you deal with that. And there's probably other people that deal with that too. I really appreciate that. I think that's very, very, very giving of you. I want you to give your number again.
Sure. 602-434-6530. You can DM me, call me, text me sometimes. Like, I'll text some of my friends that I know that are dealing with it.
Yeah.
Or just go for a drink. You just want to go for a drink. Sometimes.
Yeah, like even an iced tea, or grab a pizza, or just get them out of the house.
It's hard to talk to somebody who doesn't deal with it or hasn't dealt with it, because they don't relate. But if somebody who does or has, it's such a, then you can relate and have that real conversation with somebody.
I didn't know we were going to talk. I knew we would talk about the stigma of like having served time, but there's a lot of stigma around behavioral health, depression and anxiety, mental health awareness. There are not a lot of resources. Resources are very scarce right now, specifically right now due to like the pandemic, and so many people spiraled during the isolation.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're somebody who deals with depression and anxiety, it's very, very easy to get comfortable being alone.
Oh, yeah.
And coming from somebody who does understand that, I mean, most people would think of me as an extrovert.
Right.
But when that voice starts a talking, I'm the most introverted person you might know.
I'm a 100% introvert. I told that to my friend. He's like, "What is an introvert?" I'm like, "I didn't know until a couple years either. Like a couple years ago, I'm just very to myself.
Mm-hmm.
I'm somebody who watches.
You're an observer, yeah.
Yeah, like every time we go somewhere with the team or whatever, I always watch, especially the girls on the team, to make sure nobody's screwing with them. They don't know I'm watching them, but I watch them. It's just who I am, right? I just do that. But yeah, I was thinking about that this morning. As far as sharing that, like I said, my older daughters told me, share your story.
Yeah. So
a lot of people don't know that, but it is hard to deal with. And I mean, anybody wants to talk to me, I'm here. So I deal with it. I try and, again, motivational videos, reading, because once you start thinking those negative thoughts,
it spirals.
They
so
take
quickly.
Off so fast.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you're like, you have 15 problems. Nothing's changed but your mindset.
It's very true.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like the things could add up and add up and
Mm-hmm.
add up. And it's like one thing that somebody taught me one day, stop trying to solve it all at one time. Just take one bite, chew that bite up, and then take another bite.
Right.
And don't worry about the other stuff right now. That stuff, I mean, unless it's life-threatening or you're going to lose a home or, it's something like that, that stuff can wait.
It's funny you say, not funny, but it's so. This morning, I was getting my stuff ready before I went to the gym. Like I said, I always have motivational stuff on, and my screens and everything are in my kitchen now, right? So, like my son took over my other office room. Right?
That's what
summer vacation,
you know
right?
This, right? Yeah.
So, but it was Ed Milet and John Maxwell, and they were talking about things in the future. And John Maxwell says, "Have you ever seen I forgot exactly how he put it, but he goes, think about your life as like the headlights. Quit trying to solve everything way next week because your headlights can only see 300 feet. Solve what's in front of you now."
That's right.
And it's like, that's true.
Well, have you ever heard that, like, the past is history, the future is a mystery, but they call it a present right now. And it's like so cliche, I know that, but there's a lot of truth to it. It's okay to dream. It's okay to look into the future. But if you spend all your time in the future or the past, like what's happening this moment, you're not living. Right. Yeah.
You're worried or stressed or depressed.
Yeah. And then you're not serving yourself. You're not serving the people around you. And also, like, something people forget to mention is that when you are dealing with depression, it's actually painful and there is suffering to the person dealing with it. Like, nobody really wants to be going through that. Right. But sometimes you don't know why you're there, you don't understand why you're there, and just to have, like, it's tremendous that you're willing to talk to people, because sometimes it's literally all that somebody needs.
Exactly.
Is just to have a good conversation. We need more people like Mark. We do.
Appreciate that.
I feel very lucky to have you in my circle. I will say the same thing. I'm happy if anybody's ever in a boat where they're needing to talk. My number is 517-256-7723. You can DM me too. I think if we rally around one another, it just makes our community better.
Sometimes they just want somebody even to text or just talk. If they can relate, then they just
reach out.
Feel so much better.
Yeah, I love it.
That you're not alone, because sometimes you think you're alone when you're in that depression state.
Yeah.
Not knowing some of your closest friends are dealing with it as well. That you just don't know it.
Absolutely.
You know?
Okay, so say the book again that made your aha moment happen.
Compound Effect, Darren Hardy.
By Darren Hardy. Okay. What's another book that you think is a must-read?
A must-read. I've read a lot of them. That's probably one of my favorites. I'd say the one I'm reading now, Ed Milet, The Power of One More, because it's like one more. Keep doing one more.
Okay.
Keep doing one more.
Okay.
I've read a lot of them. I stopped for a while, but I noticed when I stop reading, my mindset starts
drifting.
Negative. And but the one I'm reading now is a good book.
Okay.
That one with Darren Hardy, I think is good because it just compound, and it does. It's like keep doing this, and keep doing that, and it's like
your building blocks.
Yes.
Okay.
I like that book.
Awesome. Is there anything else you want to leave us with today?
Thank you for having me. I'm humbled that you would have me here. I explained to my son what I was doing, and he's okay, whatever.
It probably doesn't make sense till he sees it, right?
I'm humbled that you would have me on here. It's just, I don't really share my story unless even some of my closest friends don't know what I put out there, but maybe somebody will reach out to me and that wants to talk.
Well, if they do, they're going to get lucky to have a good friend on their side like you.
I appreciate that.
So thank you.
Thank you for having me.
I'm very grateful for it. So guys, that's going to conclude our podcast for today. Just remember to take a look at my Facebook page, Heather Darren. I'm also Heather Darren on Instagram. I'll always post the episode there, and then it'll be served on any sort of podcast player that you might use. Remember, if you've got a good story and you want to share it, I want to hear it. And remember to share this because somebody else might hear this story and it will help them. And so thank you for joining Stories of Strength, and stay tuned for our next episode. Bye.
My words come from my soul. Control of one's own path is a destiny that a man must choose.